Rudy and the Reindeer Games. The North Pole was buzzing. It was the start of the annual reindeer games. All the reindeer lined up, antlers polished, and hooves gleaming, ready to race. Rudy watched his heroes, Quick Prancer, Powerful Dasher, and Boris the captain, who could fly in a perfect, laser-straight line. Rudy wanted to join more than anything. But Rudy was the youngest, and Rudy was, well, clumsy. He didn't have a graceful trot or a powerful spring. He had the Rudy run, a wobbly, zigzagging, skip-and-a-hop sort of gallop. He lined up for the tryouts anyway, his heart full of hope. He tried to fly straight and smooth, but he accidentally tangled his hooves and rolled head over hoof into a snowbank. "Sorry, Rudy," said Boris, pulling Rudy out of the snow. "The games are for speed and straight lines. We need precision and a smooth path to pull the sleigh. Maybe next year." Rudy watched from the sidelines, his heart heavy. He saw the others practicing their perfect, smooth delivery runs, soaring over hurdles in flawless formation. That afternoon, he found a secluded, frozen lake and practiced his own run. Zig, zag. He wasn't straight, but he felt free. The ice didn't mind his wobbles. He practiced for hours, turning his mistake into a dance. His movements were full of funny hops, but they were also fast and surprisingly light on his feet. He called it his chaos waltz. That night, just hours before Santa's big flight, a terrible, swirling whiteout blizzard screamed in. The wind howled a frosty song that shook the stable walls. Santa and the lead reindeer gathered by the map. "We can't fly in this," Santa worried, tapping a finger on a storm cloud. "The snow is too thick. We won't see the stars to guide us." Boris stomped his hoof in frustration. "We train for speed, for perfect lines, but you can't make a straight line in a sky like that. It will be too dangerous." Rudy, who had been listening from the shadowy corner, suddenly took a step forward. He stood up very straight, his ears perked up, a hopeful idea shining in his eyes. "Mr. Santa, the storm is everywhere, right? But the wind and snow move in swirling, unpredictable ways, like a messy zigzag." "My Rudy, run! It's not straight, but it follows the twists and turns. I can weave with the storm, not against it. I can find the small, quiet gaps in the snow." Boris scoffed under his breath, but Santa looked out at the storm, then back at Rudy. He thought about the children waiting. "It's unconventional, Rudy, but we have no choice. You lead." Rudy was harnessed to the front, and with a brave, clumsy leap, he started his unique, life-saving gallop. Zig left, zag right, skip over a big gust. Boris and the others, harnessed just behind, were forced to follow his wobbly path. It felt wrong, but as Rudy twisted and turned, they felt the sleigh moving through the blizzard, not fighting it. His wobbly path was the only path. The Rudy run wasn't clumsy at all. It was courageous, finding the rhythm in the chaos and leading the entire team to the open night sky. When they returned, tired but successful, Boris landed and walked straight up to Rudy. "That was brilliant, Rudy. You saved the flight. Your run wasn't clumsy, it was perfectly unique." Rudy the Zigzag Guide had found his hidden talent. Now, he didn't just join the reindeer games. He led the team's new zigzag weave practice, ready for whatever the next Christmas might bring. Tinsel the Toy Bear's Christmas Wish. Tinsel the Toy Bear sat on the highest, dustiest shelf in Mr. Grumble's toy emporium. He was a soft, cinnamon-brown bear with a silvery ribbon tied neatly around his neck and a heart full of patient hope. Every morning, when the shop bell jingled, Tinsel would fluff his fur in hope. He knew his only purpose was to be loved, and he waited to be the one a child would choose. Below him, the shop was a whirlwind of glitter and happy noise. Other toys, a bright red train, a doll with silk hair, a laughing wooden puppet, were being picked up, admired, and whisked away. The days grew shorter, and the air smelled stronger of peppermint drops and pine needles from the great Christmas tree. The shelf was emptying fast. Tinsel tried to keep his silvery ribbon straight. "Hello, little bear," squeaked a small, forgotten Jack-in-the-Box named Pip. "It's hard to wait, isn't it? The best ones are always found last, you know." Tinsel sighed, a tiny sound of cinnamon fur shifting. "I just worry that maybe I'm too ordinary," he whispered to Pip. "No flashy lights, no loud jingle. Just a quiet waiting bear." Christmas Eve arrived. The very last customer left without even glancing at the high shelf. The shop lights dimmed, and the last lock clicked shut. Tinsel's hope felt like a tiny, flickering candle. Suddenly, a tiny shadow zipped across the floor, moving like a flash of green velvet. It was Snorri, a kind-hearted elf, finishing his secret midnight rounds with a sack slung over his shoulder. Snorri stopped by a tall stack of boxes and checked his special list. "A few last-minute deliveries, for homes that need an extra touch of warmth," he muttered, reading the magical script. He looked up, his bright eyes scanning the darkened shelves, searching for a toy that felt right. His gaze found Tinsel, sitting small and alone against the wall. "A bear like you belongs on a bed, not a shelf on the loneliest night of the year," Snorri chuckled, the sound no louder than a snowflake landing. Tinsel felt a little flutter of excitement. Snorri gently tucked Tinsel into his warm, velvet sack. It smelled of winter air and sugar plums. "Hold on tight, little friend," the elf whispered. "Your adventure is just beginning." Zip! A moment later, Snorri was no longer on the floor. Tinsel felt a rush of cold air and the sound of bells ringing high above the rooftops. They had joined Santa's enormous sleigh. Tinsel held his breath. Below them, towns looked like spilled jewelry boxes, sparkling with yellow, red, and blue lights. The journey was faster and colder and more magical than he had ever imagined. The air thrummed with the happy thump-thump of reindeer hooves on the cloud tops. Tinsel felt a gentle nudge from a shiny, ribbon-wrapped present beside him. He wasn't alone anymore. Finally, the sleigh slowed, landing softly on a quiet, snow-covered roof. Snorri carefully pulled Tinsel from the sack and slipped down the chimney pipe with the ease of a sigh. They were in a small, quiet living room. A modest, unadorned Christmas tree stood in the corner, its few lights casting a soft, yellow glow. The silence felt deep and a little sad. "This home needs the most comfort tonight," Snorri whispered to Tinsel, placing the bear gently on the soft knitted rug right under the tree's lowest branch. "Be patient, little friend." In the stillness of the dark room, Tinsel waited. He thought about his days on the high shelf and wondered if this quiet place was where his hope would finally bloom. The first light of Christmas morning slowly painted the window panes. A door creaked open. A young girl named Felicity padded into the room in her soft, worn pajamas. Her eyes were sad and tired. She hadn't asked for a toy this year, and she didn't expect one. She walked past the tree without a glance, heading straight for the window. Then she stopped. Something on the rug caught her eye, a small cinnamon-brown bear with a quiet, silvery ribbon. It was the only thing there. Felicity knelt down by the tree. She reached out slowly, picked Tinsel up and held him close, burying her face in his soft shoulder. She squeezed him tight. Tinsel knew his wait was over. Love doesn't always arrive in a shiny box or on a brightly lit day. It is quiet. It is patient. It is a whispered hug on a lonely morning, finding its way exactly where it is needed most. The lantern fox of Winter Hollow. In the heart of the world, where the pines stood tall and the frost whispered secrets, lay a place called Winter Hollow. The snow fell softly, making everything quiet and white. Winter Hollow had a guardian, a beautiful red fox named Lumi. Unlike other foxes, Lumi carried a gentle, shimmering light, like 100 fireflies held close inside her heart. This wasn't just any light. It was the warmth of her kindness and the courage in her spirit, gathered up and held tight. It promised safety to all the little forest folk. In the deep, dark drifts, when the weather was wild, animals could easily lose their way. One evening, a tiny rabbit named Pip shivered, lost and alone in the swirling snow. Then, through the white curtain, a warm light appeared, Lumi. She didn't speak, but her glowing presence felt like a gentle hand, showing Pip the path to the cozy community den. The community den was safe beneath the oldest cedar. Pip bounced inside, warm and grateful, while Lumi watched from the edge, her job done for the moment. Lumi did this often, guiding every creature back to safety, and her light was a promise. You are never truly lost. Now, it was the night of Christmas Eve. A heavy, magical snow was falling, covering every familiar landmark. It made the air feel still, silent, and very, very deep. The kind of night where a hero might be needed. Just as the night grew still, a panicked sound broke the silence. A jingling bell, too faint, too frantic, and coming from the wrong direction. It was the sound of a sleigh bell. Lumi knew the sound meant danger for Christmas itself. She sprang up, shaking the snow from her fur, her golden light now burning brightly, a beacon of determination. The snow fought against her, piling up in tall, icy walls. But Lumi pushed through, remembering that the true strength of her light was not just its glow, but the brave heart carrying it. Deeper and deeper she ran, until she found her. Tangled in a thicket of icy vines was a magnificent reindeer, her bells silent and her harness broken. It was Runa, lost from Santa's team. Runa was tired and frightened, her eyes wide with worry. The fox stood small but mighty beside the great beast. This was the biggest guidance job Lumi had ever faced. Lumi gently nudged the thicket, checking the ice. With a swift, careful bite, she freed the last stubborn vine. Runa's heavy bells clinked once, a sound of relief. "Follow my light, brave Runa," her presence seemed to whisper. Lumi didn't wait for an answer. She simply turned, her light blazing the one true path through the dark woods. Runa, shaken but free, began to trot, trusting the warm glow completely. Together, the small fox and the great reindeer raced against the morning light. They crested the final hill and saw it, a grand red sleigh, shining in the distant clearing, surrounded by the rest of the waiting team. Runa let out a great joyful neigh, breaking away from Lumi and soaring back to her team, pulling the magic back to the night just in time for Santa's launch. Christmas was saved. Lumi watched the grand sleigh vanish into the starlit sky. She felt a peaceful, tired joy deep in her heart. She was only one little fox, but her light had made all the difference. The forest animals, safe in the den, saw the tiny dot of the sleigh disappear. They knew what Lumi had done. They poured out, bringing their gratitude and hanging small, twinkling firefly lanterns on the branches. Lumi padded back to the den, no longer blazing but feeling warm inside. Pip hopped to meet her, his little lantern swinging gently in the snowy air. Together they stood beneath a canopy of pine, now glowing with dozens of tiny lights. The animals sang a quiet song of gratitude, a sound as warm as Lumi's heart. Every time a new snowflake fell, it seemed to catch the light and sparkle just a little brighter. Winter Hollow was safe, not just from the snow, but from the fear of being alone. And so, on every Christmas night, the twinkling lanterns and the soft, steady glow of the little lantern fox became the greatest gifts of all, showing that the guiding light of a true friend is the most magical thing in the world.
Gingerbread Parade. The kitchen was quiet and warm. Outside, the snow fell in big, soft flakes, blanketing the village. Inside, a delicious secret was cooling on a wire rack. It was Christmas Eve, and the gingerbread creations were dreaming of sugar plums. But Snow the reindeer was dreaming of something else, adventure. Pop! Her little dot eyes blinked open. Snow gently nudged Crummel the bear. "Wake up, Big Crumb," she whispered. Next, she tapped Clovey the fox, who was already stirring. Soon, 3 pairs of sugary eyes were gleaming in the dark. Shh! Snow wiggled off the rack. Crummel and Clovey followed, their hard gingerbread feet making little tap-tap-tap sounds on the wooden counter. They left a tiny trail of crumbs with every step. They tiptoed past the sleeping cat and reached the back door. The village beyond looked like a wonderful frosted cake sparkling under the moonlight. Snow pushed open the latch with her antler. Creak! The air rushed in, cold and crisp, smelling of pine and clean snow. They tumbled out, leaving the warm kitchen behind. Through the frosty village they danced. Crummel twirled so fast, a tiny shard of his gumdrop button flew off, landing perfectly on a snowman's frosty nose. Clovey, the fastest of the 3, raced ahead. He left a trail of crumbs that glittered like golden dust in the pale moonlight, leading right to the big Christmas tree in the square. The 3 friends did a joyful, crumbly parade around the tree. They giggled a gingerbread giggle, but then a faint pink glow touched the eastern sky. Morning was coming. "Quickly," Snow commanded. The parade turned into a dash. They scrambled back, following the golden crumb trail they had left behind, their little legs a blur. They burst through the back door, hopped back onto the counter, and climbed the tea towel. With one last scramble, they were back on the cool wire rack, landing with a soft clunk. The sun rose, and a child's footsteps were heard downstairs. 3 gingerbread animals lay still, their adventures now a secret. "Look!" cried the child. "A tiny trail of crumbs, and one of the bear's buttons is gone. Merry Christmas!"
Santa's sleepy sleigh ride. Santa Claus checked his list twice, then once more, just for luck. It was Christmas Eve, and the whole workshop hummed with a quiet, frosty energy. But Santa felt an unusual yawn building. "That Mrs. Claus," he chuckled, rubbing his eyes. "She mixed up the cheer-up cocoa with the super sleepy cocoa from my thermos. Ho ho, oh dear." His eyelids felt heavier than a sack of toys. Soon the sleigh was loaded, and they shot into the starry night. The wind whistled a chilly tune. They had only crossed the first 4 continents when a soft, rumbling snore escaped Santa. Fjord, the sensible leader of the team, pulled hard on the reins with his mouth. "Jingle jangle," he snorted to the others. "We have to be responsible. We can't let the children wake up to empty stockings." Sparkle, the fastest reindeer, zipped down towards a tall, narrow chimney. "I'll be the helper elf," she whispered, carefully holding a brightly wrapped gift in her teeth. It was tricky work. They had to balance on steep, frosty tiles, slide down slick chimneys, and dodge a very curious ginger cat named Marmalade. In one house, Fjord accidentally stamped his hoof a little too hard on the hearth. Thump, thump! He quickly took off, but a faint, shimmery golden mark was left behind on the stone. In another, Sparkle got a case of the giggles when a sleepy puppy mistook her shiny nose for a chew toy. Heh. The puppy just wagged its tail and went back to sleep. The last present was delivered just as the sun began to paint the sky a soft rose pink. Fjord and Sparkle flew the heavy, now empty sleigh up, up, and away from the sleepy town. When Santa finally woke up, he saw the empty sacks and the grateful smiles of Fjord and Sparkle. "You did it!" he cheered. And all over the world, children would wake up to gifts, a mystery giggling sound, and a tiny magic golden hoofprint.